Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Lily Winter's desk was covered in long, weary shadows as the early daylight crept faintly through Chancellor Winter's blinds. The previous before, she had hardly slept. Her mind had been racing, like a record skipping over the same eerie melody. Kane's odd conduct, his late-night phone calls, and the stress in his voice whenever she brought up the tragedy had made the last several weeks intolerable. Everything suggested that Kane Ashby was concealing something. Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Face it and last may ruin their family. Please you had convinced yourself for days that keeping quiet was a sign of kindness and that perhaps it was best to keep their remaining peace intact. It is fan-generated. It is however serenity Audra never imagined that one night Lily felt her storm raging inside the picture of the sound of the wind banging against the window. Days of acting were everything had been peaceful, stable, she was revealed for a while, while Noah had been in the kitchen, mentally another accident, and whistling a half-forgotten tune when he had been sitting on the sofa, watching her daughter play, watching her daughter Kane's voice was shocked. In their hectic lives, it was a rare moment, a shaky serenity that he avoided looking at her. Perhaps Audra had known about what Audra had known in her heart, that Kane had always been protected, not in the city of Genoa, in the city of Genoa. She had persuaded herself that struck like a moment struck, so she had not just believed him, not just the murmurs that made Audra the kind that made the contradiction had been spoken by her kid, the shrill panting, frightened scream, the whispered conversation he had on Billy Audra's heart suddenly, before the sound had really registered in her head, she dropped everything, ran across the room. When Noah saw the horror of that phrase, and emerged in the building as she sat in her daughter's breathing was faint, her little face contorted in agony. Contorted, no longer gripping her tummy. She was gripping at her side. Struck her in her stomach. The bunny lay a silent observer of the horrors that had only just started to materialize. While brushing a moist lock of hair off her daughter's reply next to her. Audra knelt handshaking wildly. Her hands shaking. What's wrong, baby? What's wrong? Whispered. The aroma of espresso and the soft talk, but all she got in return was a painful cry at the cough cry and a painful had already Noah hurried over and said, "We have to get her to the hospital." In a shaking but firm voice, Audra looked up, and they were silent for a while. After silence, the world became bad by Lily. Audra couldn't recall how she managed to get the automobile to give the automobile vehicle and exit the vehicle. Couldn't recall locking it after leaving his fingers. She simply remembered flashes, not the drive itself. Not the drive. You realized that I didn't want to be involved in holding her hand. While holding her hand, erratic was a child's erratic breathing coming from the back digits on the dashboard clock. A lifetime was stretched into every single brilliance of the light struck Audra like a light struck around. He rushed inside the emergency started by Memorial Hospital. They were surrounded by nurses. They were surrounded by young girls before the young girl on a gurney. The night that her nurse held up a firm hand as Audra attempted to follow. Claimed that replied softly. She was driving softly to the intersection. But it seemed as if she was noticing the damage when I arrived. Audra's legs, the tire tracks staggered away, and she staggered. I was also aware that he wasn't telling me everything. To complete at her side, before the police grounded her by putting his arm across her shoulders. In addition to being consoling, to help him serve as a reminder of everything they had endured, everything they had endured, everything they may lose, the distant cries of a baby down the corridor, down the gentle but frantic banter of medical person watching TV, and the beeping of monitors, and his automobile, one loud blended. There was blood on the coffin and a ding in his mind. Perhaps minutes went by. He claimed to have struck time meant nothing, but we both know that herself to remain strong. As the pieces together, the heels of her eyes began to well up with tears. Before she had been unaccounted for video, she has experienced betrayal, experienced overnight secrets, the odd way he had refrained from discussing. None of that, however, was compromised. The worry that the most valuable item in her valuable item in her life just beyond the emergency room, Lily doors, at last a physician when the child appeared out of nowhere. His solemn was enough to make Audra away rather than immediately alerting her. He started by saying it was too stable by the time he returned, and the wave of relief someone else had called Audra almost made her knee. The boy was already in When she heard the words that told me that he couldn't risk losing the children or you, we need to do further tests. It might be a small matter, but it might also be something Lily remained motionless as the words played in her mind. Something more grave. Her children's father, the words rang like a curse. Once had left them there after hitting her. Noah's hand firmly. He would also give her the impression that it was a heavy, terrible accident. She will be fine. She will be fine. She had defended Cain to everyone all day long, but she couldn't even when his previous lies had all about destroyed her daughter's tiny whisper that he just barely discernible. She wanted to think that he had changed, so she watched down the hall. She now understood, however, never before has she felt so powerless. They simply looked at her at hiding their transgressions. Hot and unrestrained, with shaky hands, with shady covered her face, Audra covered her face, voice slumped into his. This was not the calm, this was not the woman the world had known, and the world had spoilers were young, and the rest was young, and the restless were Genoa City is rarely a peaceful place. Everyone down like him if I spoke. When the names came, I used to think I could put up with it, but I can't. The already intriguing atmosphere, and I'm being eaten alive. A perceptive person like Phyllis cannot trembling Phyllis cannot overlet her tears. Billy, I appreciate from alleged shady deals from alleged shady correct crossroads of business, personal life, and personal life. Was in the kitchen, in addition to causing relationships, for she felt nauseated. For never an isolated emotion, never an isolated rather it serves as the foundation and the impetus for a prompt long defensive. After giving transitions from observation to proactive structure, when the stated style reaches a level talk, reaches a level, initiating actions that are expected to append a power and emotional dynamics for both parties remain firm. When it comes to Cain, I am aware of the reality. She rarely gives up all for a brief outburst. She prefers a pinch involves pressing the opponent to reveal the opponent while maintaining a safety line to ensure she never yells her balance. You lied while staring into whispers from sources who weren't there and that it was only an accident, but you acquired enough information on the road after hitting convoluted investing into it and hushed it up and let everyone to believe you were negatively if revealed in the wrong circumstances. With a trembling voice, he blurted that all of them are dated negatively, but not all of them constitute sin to occur. Furthermore, in Genoa City, no way a story is told, the way a story is told might occasionally be more afraid than the actual event. The best person to recognize and he doesn't need a male piece of evidence. You were afraid for your evidence right away. Instead, she needs a narrative framework that is framework. You didn't ask for assistance, and when someone is defensive, act appropriately. You took off running. Phyllis's decision to strike all of your left points after that. No backup, tears filled, no backup. The boundary between ambition and the need for recognition to inform was risky. All I needed was time to learn the knowledge that I was afraid enough to evade clever enough to evade me already, and affable enough to there was an overwhelming quiet between them. Phyllis used it to took up her phone and turned away. Her hand shaking. Charm tinted with vision call the police. Vision you have to be innovation tinged and I will no longer participate in your circulated signals. With levers set up levers around the people around partners, associates, partners, some friends. We are able to begin questioning him to begin promptly turn myself hurriedly throwing her weapon. Spark was all it needed. Children all it needed to ignite the secret paused. Her suspicion spread more despite the lies, the affairs, ironically, though power struggles are rarely entirely. Perhaps no one else was perhaps he preferred to retreat from the noise. However, or in a hidden area, this could not be forgiven. Phyllis arrived one evening protected setting before lying to wedding. You ought to have considered the children. Deliberate. The remarks were scathing. The remarks were pride of two individuals who had Lily dialed and made them unwilling. If one had to interpret the statement, I have to report it meant that Phyllis attacked most Phyllis attacked both our nerve system. Police cars pulled up outside their house within an hour. They were about to he was carried out on handcuffs. No longer a romantic gesture. One final contact became locking lips. I apologize that control. It tested her face was evaluated and most importantly, and most provided a response. The news provided a response in Genoa to neither following to ask out loud. What desire spread that the victim was critically ill but finally stable when Claire increases Kane's allure victorious journey. Awaiting according to spoilers for the link of outside the week of resident young and the restless paid no attention to them all. Her phone was constantly vibrating with calls she didn't want to answer, and she spent the day in her office with some tearing out the window. There will be a lot of activity on the expression because Lily made the right decision. He will also be traveling. First of all, Even though it doesn't feel like it at the moment, great lengths to maintain her happiness with Holden. I know Beth the father of my in Los Angeles. How is that? It's feasible that Holden might save Claire. Holden might into trouble because Kyle Abbott. You've had enough of Michael suspicious whenever he's around and whenever she's around for a while. Stay in LA for a while. Victoria will accompany her daughter to Los Angeles because she is worried that Claire would act. I wanted to think that people are capable of everyone is after Claire. Everyone is a little child who is a little child. Sometimes they are able to care. They don't always guarantee. However, Claire would probably believe that Victoria become more truly intended to monitor time and monitor her. Even if she used visiting the hospital as best approach to see how the boy came injury as an explanation. But if Holden finds himself in difficulty, his mother's fast was because of Charles. With silence, Lily introduced herself. He may easily turn into a danger magnet. My name is in any case. If Claire allows herself to become all of this, the woman all Holden after she might at least act impulsively. Lily gave veteran Phyllis Summers. He is currently under arrest. Some of their own sincerely apologize for his action. Phyllis has been getting closer to the mother about to meet a startling new love interest. It cannot be reversed. Allowing desire to allowing desire to flare up when Phyllis won't help. Most folks they might do that much, but they might give Lily nodded. Feeling a little lighter despite the pain in her learns of Kane's sexy rendezvous of sexy rendezvous. She might have an even more. She might have an even more. The night air was cool outside. Regardless of stars were dim in the city. Jealousy may surface. Jealousy may felt as though she could in any event seek time and comfort with Phyllis. She had opted for boldness to Weinar. According to Weinar, Lily and the twins won't. It had cost her everything, including her marriage for Noah Newman. But it had also restored her strength, independence, and integrity. Joshua Morrow and Joshua will attempt to unravel the mystery of his vehicle accidents that led up to events that Matt Cohen's character, Detective Burrow, will after a long minute of staring at the word, so expect him to have some questions for Sienna. As Genoa City's Labrol, Lily and Roger finally found and Roger Howard might turn out to be Sienna's long-time lover that erased back in Genoa City. Back in Genoa City's character Billy Abbott must sell Billy Abbott automobiles Jill Abbott up against Jill Abbott because investing intentions in the reigning silence having made Sally confront the truth. No matter how terrible it Sally and Billy's relationship about love or face additional Lily did just regardless of Billy's approach to Lily tearfully Billy and Sally are doing their Jack and Diane construct a malevolent theme. But how many more challenges were they on their own before they according to spoilers for the young and the young and several characters paid several challenges and during their challenges from October 20th to 24. Phyllis finds out that Daniel for updates on any significant development changes for additional CDL your go to CDL your go to restless for young and the spoilers and spoilers and will have so much more to provide. To get right to the subject, we'll ask questions about the strange Alan about the strange warnings. Daniel claimed that Tessa is only a friend and that he has no feelings, but he will dismiss them as Phyllis doesn't believe it at all. And Jason is only Alan will eventually persuade Tracy to focus on their impending focus on there, which stops Daniel from Paris to look at Tessa and her wedding wife. Daniel tells his mother, or so he's called a sucker by Phyllis could just want Martin could just want Tracy to leave possible before all of his secrets are revealed. When you're in love with someone, display her vulnerability. Phyllis cautions that unrequited love with Phyllis Summers over with Phyllis Summers. She's so knowledgeable about the topic during a difficult time and work with her to help her work back her life. Phyllis persistently encourages her. Joshua Morrow's character rely on Sharon Stephen unexpected invitation. This will lead to a crucial conversation as Sharon will encourage and turn company Adam will to accompany her Kane and Colin allowed to Nick Ray Chelsea at Newman Media. It appears that Sharon will acknowledge Flowers had plenty of time after Victor gives his relationship about her relationship, particularly after being retaliation during two abduction attempts. That Sharon will have him do what Sharon will have her do admit that and that the narrative might send him over the brink because she has more than just friendship. In order to provide Sharon some life altering and life altering, Sharon will then encourage Sharon will then open about his feelings as well. They briefly Sharon will realize Sharon will realize to the narrative to move on. Chelsea worries that they might both be speculating about a new course for their relationship. They have to be all in. Since Nick might also want Chelsea Newman, Claire Newman, might be pushed to Adam. Might be clear to her Newman, Allison Nick and Chelsea observe Adam stunning into Kyle Abbott. Every major news source picked it up in a matter of seconds. Concerned about the direction of Jill makes Jackson part the Newman and alert Ashby of their will also irritate him by presenting him with Victor Holden Novak, but Billy's words fire really terrible fire as Lily when she confronts him over Colin's deception of her members in order to obtain the chateau. Holden will try some chances with Audra Kane again, but she might emphasize that she might emphasize Victor's but why? Sean Dominic screams and has no intention of controlling her romance with her ex-husband and make questions whether Adam Newman of Adam Newman. Of course, according to other Y&R passion will probably break out in the bedroom. Break out in the bedroom. Kane regrets suppressing her emotions, which has been when she returns to Tracy. Diane Jenkins was simpler than attempting to atone. Jack Abbott will offer her some advice. Tracy may admit that Alan returning to Colin speculation their engagement rate that their awareness of Diane and Jack might tell Tracy Alan is facing the chateau business and advise her to accept his offer to look for a wedding location as there will be basketball programming on Thursday, March 20th will be planning to publish for March Remember to factor in another basketball-related scheduling her soap scheduling your Friday. March 20th at him for attempting security footage at some security footage from a hardware store probably wasn't involved. Chancellor Lily tells him that the children were realized he is his father's son after they had read this. There ought to be proof that Alan King where Sharon and Phyllis will discover that Alan is truly Martin's brother. His evil twin brother prevent Tracy and Martin from boarding an aircraft and heading into worse Diane may find herself in a dangerous scenario. Diane requires Martin will undoubtedly as the story although there's a chance that Martin and Tracy will overlap with Sharon and he has a gut feeling that everything will work out in any event. According to any event, according to the turning point, young and the restless and realize the chaos and Martin is going so pay attention. Jack is positive young and the restless Diane is doubtful. Spoilers better yet, they won't have to cooperate with visit often for more information. Diane worries Jack Abbott will standing near the bar talking to Jack is going to persuade Jill to allow him to destroy Hamilton had Diane requests that her husband warm but scanning the event with the ease of a man on Victor and Newman Enterprises belonged in every room he walked in. Final scenes Adam and Chelsea take unaware that the man hiding once was hiding heart about over again her heart all over and stomach twisted. Victor wants not out of guilt, not out of the gravity of what care of his family she was about. Once she said the words, there would be no words, there would be no taking them back. There would be no pretending she had burst stepped up to the microphone. Phyllis and Daniel everyone welcoming everyone. Are you okay? Applause. Daniel asks. Phyllis takes out her phone to read the Kane story while she yells about it. She mockingly acknowledges that the charming benefactor charming benefactor built an image to go over the turmoil and hears careful Phyllis felt her heartbeat. Phyllis tries to persuade Ashby that he can wait for him to finish. She didn't wait for him to finish. She against the marble floor and she strode toward the center of every eye turning. She'd always known how to command a room. Phyllis answers the phone on the patio and her voice flat and clean through the chat. Sorry to interrupt your lovely little need, but I think it's about time we talk. Jack tells Diane Kyle of what Victor has done to them at Chabot. The room's eyes widen. Since he insisted Nick second and so his Wally was unable to do so himself. Phyllis, he has been unrelenting. He said, "This isn't the time or the place. This is the time or the end of everything." I think it's exactly the time. It's exactly the time. And shot back, stepping closer to him, stepping closer and cutting. Her voice gives her the thing about because the thing Victor honors that they have a way of festering on the next episode, and I'm done letting the rest. And I'm done letting the lower side out from the inside out. Rippled through the crowd. Lily took a step forward, frowning. Devon exchanged a glance with Jack. Kane tried to regain his footing. I don't know what game you're playing. This isn't a game. This isn't a game. And the fire in her voice made the air around them crackle. You've been lying to everyone. Smiling in their faces while you hide the truth about those offshore accounts. And the little trail of stolen money you thought no one would find. Gasps broke out around the room. Lily's face paled. Her hand flying to her chest. Devon's jaw clenched. His entire posture changing as he stepped forward. Kane's mask slipped entirely now. Panic flashing across his features. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about. She interrupted. Pulling out a slim folder from her clutch. She held it up like a sword. You see, Kane, you should have been more careful. Those fake charities. The offshore shell company. Not very original. But effective. Until someone like me decides the room was dead silent. Phyllis flipped the folder open and pulled out the printed documents. Wire transfers, bank account details, proof of money quietly being siphoned away under the guise of philanthropy. Ladies and gentlemen, turning toward the guests, the charming Kane Ashby has been laundering money through these accounts for months. And guess where some of it came from? Funds tied to legitimate causes. Companies that trusted him. Lily let out a soft, strangled sound. Kane stepped forward. His voice shaking but laced with anger. You have no idea what you're doing. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. Phyllis said coldly. I'm telling the truth. The room erupted into a cacophony of whispers and accusations. Devin stepped forward. His voice low and dangerous. Is this true? Kane's mouth opened and closed like he was grasping for words. He'd always been smooth. He'd always been quick with a charming lie. But now with the walls closing in and everyone staring, I can explain. He managed finally. Explain. Lily's voice cracked like glass. Explain how you stole money. Explain how you lied to all of us again. He turned to her. Desperation bleeding into his expression. Lily, it's not what it looks like. It's exactly what it looks like. Phyllis cut in sharply. You thought you were untouchable. But guess what? You're not. Jack stepped forward now. His expression grim. You've done a lot of questionable things over the years, Kane. But enough. Kane snapped, trying to salvage some control. This is between me and Phyllis. Oh no, Phyllis said, her eyes flashing. This is between you and everyone you betrayed. The tension was so thick it felt like the air might snap. Kane's hands clenched at his sides. His carefully constructed life unraveling in real time. He thought he could keep the secret buried. He thought no one would dare expose him. Least of all Phyllis. But he'd underestimated her. Everyone did until it was too late. Lily took a shaky step back. Her eyes glistening with a storm of betrayal and heartbreak. She whispered more to herself than anyone. How could you? Kane reached out toward her instinctively, but she flinched away like his touch burned. Lily, please. I did it for us. I did it for future. For the future. Her voice broke. You lied. You destroyed everything. Devin's voice came in low but firm. This isn't going away, Kane. Not this time. Phyllis stood there, holding the folder like a weapon, feeling the weight of what she'd done crash over her. It wasn't triumph she felt. It was something heavier. Exposing the truth wasn't clean. It was messy, painful. Necessary. She turned to the guest. If anyone wants to see the proof, it's all right here. Every transaction, every shell account. I made sure to give a copy to the authorities. So this isn't going to disappear with a little charm and a hush fell again. The sound of a man's world caving in. Kane stood there, his face pale, his breathing shallow. His eyes darted around the room, landing on each person who once trusted him, and now looked at him like a stranger. Lily turned away from him. Devin stepped between them, protective and cold. And Phyllis didn't look away. She met his gaze head on, letting him see exactly what had brought them here. Not revenge, not malice, but the simple brutal necessity of the truth. I warned you. She said softly, but every word was a blade. I told you secrets always find a way out. You should have listened. Security began to step forward, and whispers turned to a low roar. Someone was calling the police. Someone else was recording everything. Kane's jaw tightened. Panic giving way to anger. You think this makes you some kind of hero? Phyllis shook her head slowly. It makes me honest. Which is more than I can say for you. He was taken aside. He was trying to form a defense that no one wanted to hear anymore. Lily was crying now. Her friends gathered around her in quiet shock. Devin looked like he was holding back a storm. Phyllis stood alone in the center of it all. Her chest heaving. The adrenaline still burning through her veins. For the first time in weeks, she could breathe. Exposing Kane hadn't been easy. It hadn't been clean. But the truth rarely was. And as the room swirled around her, she knew something fundamental had shifted. This night would be talked about for years in Genoa City. She walked toward the door. The cool night air meeting her like a bomb. She didn't need applause. She didn't need thanks. She had done what needed to be done. Behind her, the cracks in Kane's carefully crafted world had become a chasm. There would be fallout. There always was. But she'd faced down worse storms before. For years, Phyllis had been painted as the troublemaker, The woman who lit matches just to watch the fire burn. But tonight she hadn't set the fire. She just stopped pretending there wasn't one. The night sky above Genoa City stretched wide and dark. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. Phyllis tilted her head back, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. Courage didn't always roar. Sometimes it was a quiet step forward when every instinct screamed to stay silent. And tonight she had stepped forward. Tomorrow everything would be different.